race, you would be ahead by 20 points. And I know you like to hear that. As it is, Joe Sestak is in a dead heat with Pat Toomey, and you were there in Pennsylvania right now at a rally with Michelle Obama and the Democratic candidate. How's it looking, and how do you feel tonight as we go into this campaign and ending event?
You know, Elliot, I hate to disagree with Kathleen because she's a very smart, charming, exceptionally charming woman. But I think she's wrong about the landslide.
And young, Ed.
I think she's wrong. And young, very young. Significantly younger than me. But I think she's wrong about the landslide. There's a little bit of a Democratic undertow. It's been operating in Pennsylvania for the last 3 weeks. Joe Sestak went from 12 points down 3 weeks ago to within the margin of error. Dan Honorato, our gubernatorial candidate, went from 15 to 5. Patrick Murphy, one of our congressional candidates, was down 16. He's now slightly ahead. So there's an undertow, and Democratic voters are getting energized. We're here at Penn. Right behind me is where the Michelle Obama rally is taking place. I just spoke. And the kids, the young people, are energized. African Americans are energized. Gay and lesbian voters are energized. Hispanic voters in Allentown, where I was on Friday, are energized. I think all this talk from the media about this Republican landslide and the enthusiasm gap has worked to get Democratic voters to sort of wake up and say, we got to get out there and vote. I'm not predicting we're going to win. No party wins the first midterm election. But I think it's going to be less of a landslide than everyone thinks. I think Joe Sestak has a very good chance to win. And I think we're going to hold most of our congressional seats in Pennsylvania, which is a real upset.
Look, Ed, first let's take a look, if we can. I think we've got a camera shot of that rally there where Michelle Obama will be energizing the base you're talking about. And I got to tell you, I admire your fortitude, your determination. I've been there. I know what it's like the night before. But let me ask you this question. We are, as I mentioned, starting this effort to name your compromise. The driving issue in the lame duck session and probably going into the early year is going to be the taxpayers, the Republican Party, for those above $250,000 as well. Is there a compromise you see that is possible on that issue?
Yeah, I think there has to be a compromise because we simply can't let it be deadlocked. We can't let the tax cuts expire in the bad economy. Frankly, what I would do were I king of the world is let the tax cuts expire on the rich and keep the middle class tax cuts for at least another 2 years and let them all expire, because we have to start talking the truth to the American people. If we keep these tax cuts in place, both of them, for the next 10 years, it'll cost us $4 trillion on the deficit. Republicans talk about cutting spending. Well, Elliot and Kathleen, you know, domestic non-discretionary spending, discretionary domestic spending is 1/10 of that $4 trillion. That's all you can cut from it. So we've got to be honest with the American people. But what I think we should do is a 1 year or 2 year at the most delay in the tax cuts on people earning more than $250,000. Let the middle class tax cuts stay in effect. Phase out the tax cuts on the rich in a year or two. Compromise on that. And then let's go to work on real deficit reduction. I think we've got to get serious about entitlements. We've got to get serious about taxes.
Governor, let me interrupt you just a minute, because this is key to your point. Who among the Republicans in the Senate could you work with? Can you name names?
Well, I've always enjoyed working with Lamar Alexander, for example. I think he's a reasonable guy, an absolutely reasonable guy. I think Orrin Hatch is very reasonable on a lot of different issues. Jim Inhofe, who's considered one of the most conservative Republicans, he and I authored an op-ed piece on the need for infrastructure spending. So I think it's not who, it's the spirit, and we've got to we got to call a timeout on election partisanship, a timeout for the next 6 months, and really attack the nation's problems. And what you're doing, name that compromise, it's a great idea, because the citizens have to drive that process. We got to get a message across to D's and R's.
Hey, Governor, you're a former prosecutor. I always like it when prosecutors name names, and you just did that, both on the substance of what you thought could happen and who to do it with. Let's take a quick look, though, at the lame duck session that's going to start probably on Wednesday in terms of what the analysis will be. What can Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi do? Will they try to get a resolution of the tax issue in the lame duck session, or will this have to wait until January?
No, I would try to get a resolution, and the only way you're going to get a resolution, obviously, is by compromise. So let's get it over with. Let's get it over with. Clear the decks. Have the tax cuts on the richer Americans expire or sunset, and leave the tax cuts for the middle class, and we'll deal with that as we go down the road. Listen, the key for America is what we do when the Deficit Reduction Commission makes its report to the Congress.
Governor?
Obviously, the lame duck session is not going to deal with that.
All right, Governor, here's your big opportunity. You have said that you would like to be President Obama's chief of staff. So if you were, what would you tell the president to do on Wednesday?
On Wednesday, I would tell the president to sit down and ask for network time and make a speech to the nation and pledge that for the next year, you are going to put politics aside, you're going to put partisanship aside, you're calling on Republicans and Democrats in the Congress to do the same, and let's attack the deficit. Let's attack jobs in the economy. Let's attack our infrastructure. Let's attack the remaining questions about the two wars. And let's do it together as Americans. Somebody, somewhere, has to sound that note.
Governor, as always, thank you for joining us. A fascinating conversation, and we will talk with you soon after this election and see what happens and compare it to what you predict.
Don't go
All
away.
right, Elliot, have fun with that. Have that fun with that younger woman.
Oh, dear.
Dangerous words.
All right. Thank you so much. Don't go away. We'll be right